So that's the next night. Then they return. No, they hitchhike. That's the night that they party down at the snake pit.
Yeah.
And then they end up at Spahn Ranch.
Yeah.
Now Spahn Ranch gets raided.
A week later, yeah.
Right, and you say in your book you feel like it was to justify the fact that they had let all this go down under their noses.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you said it was the biggest raid
in the history of California to that point. Yeah. Pre-dawn raid, I can't remember how many, 70 or 100 officers. They had helicopters, jeeps. They circled the ranch. They had a signal for them all to go in.
Right.
They round everybody up and take, I think, 27 family members to the county jails and book them. And then 3 days later, they release them all. And in the search warrant, the only individual who's named is Charles Manson. He's identified in the search warrant as somebody on federal parole who the reason they're raiding it in the warrant is they're looking for guns, stolen vehicles, stolen whatever. They found everything. Manson had stolen credit cards.
Yeah, I saw that in your book. Kept out of his book. They fell out of his pocket, right?
Yeah.
They weren't Hemmings, were they?
No, they weren't.
Okay, because I heard you say that they had Gary Hemmings credit cards, right? For a little bit or something?
No, they didn't.
I probably misunderstood you.
Yeah, Beausoleil might have had it when he was up in Santa Barbara.
Okay. All right.
But no, they were a psychiatrist who is... that would take another hour. That's not in my book yet, but you'll see it in the second book.
I will indeed.
But then they release them all 3 days later. And Bugliosi writes, because he has to explain this in Helter Skelter.
Right.
And I think the raid is given about one paragraph in his like 500 and some pages book.
The biggest raid in history is given one paragraph. Well, and to that point, in California history.
Till the Patty Hearst thing when they bombed the building and burned it down with a bunch of SLA people in the late 70s. That was the second biggest. But, that was the first biggest. The Spahn was first, then that one took over.
Right.
So then Bugliosi writes in Helter Skelter that the reason they were released was because the warrant was misstated. Well, I got a copy of the warrant. It's dated, the raid was August 16th. I think it's dated August 10th or something. It's not the day of the raid, but I took it to the lumber. We have a 7-day window on either side.
Yeah.
And he knew that. And all these sheriffs were furious. I go, why'd you never go public? They said, who's going to listen to us, you know?
Yeah.
And I said, all right, so if it's not misstated, why were they released? So then I go to the deputy DA who signed their release, who was still a deputy DA in downtown. This is probably 2003, Bob Shern. And he said, yeah, you're right. It's not misstated. I remember reading that in the book. I go, well, you signed the release. He goes, I can't remember. I think it was, I go, that was a big, look at, I go, all the stuff all the evidence. He goes, I think it was because we couldn't pin any of the evidence to any of the people that were arrested. At that point, I hadn't seen the credit card report yet, so they could have with that.
Right.
But I said, well, how can you, I go, like, what? He goes, well, like car keys for the stolen vehicles. I said, they raided the ranch at 5 a.m. because they wanted everyone to be asleep. Who's going to have keys on them when they're sleeping?
Exactly.
And then I went to the same people, my Pamela Posh, this woman in law enforcement. I think she was part of the parole commission or something. And she said, that's ridiculous. You charge them with conspiracy. You've got all the evidence of theft and, felony behavior. So you charge them all with conspiracy, and then you start offering them deals to rat each other out.
Yeah.
It's done all the time.
Right.
You don't have to have even their fingerprints on anything.
See, the government can use conspiracy, but the moment we say it, we have a tinfoil hat. I'm just playing. But so they, let me see something real quick here.
And that day, they got out, I think the 19th. Within like 72 hours of that, they killed Shorty Shea.
Exactly. That's what I was getting to.
So had they not been released, Shorty Shea would have been killed.
Exactly.
And who knows how many others? 0.
So let me ask you a question. From what I understand, Manson ordered the hit on Shorty Shea, because he thought that he called the sheriffs on him. Were the sheriffs actually tipped off by the young woman who was staying there that you mentioned earlier?
Well, no, they were doing surveillance. I mean,
they were just doing surveillance.
They've been gathering evidence.
So this guy was killed for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
And they dismembered him, right?
Well, that was a story that Clem Grogan told, that they cut his head off. But when they found the skeleton, his head wasn't cut off. I think they just stabbed him a lot of times.
Okay. And they didn't find his body till 1977, 8 years later. Why didn't they look when they knew he'd been missing?
No, they looked. They looked.
Oh,
what
they did. They just couldn't find him.
Yeah, I've been wrong when I keep saying the only ones who've been paroled are Bruce Davis and Leslie, who've been approved. Steve Grogan, Clem, was paroled. He's the only Manson family member who's actually been released. And this was before the governor had the authority to overturn it.
Yeah.
So he told the sheriffs the year he became eligible for parole, which was like 1977, he contacted Burke Katz, who was the prosecutor who tried him.
Yeah.
And he said, I will lead you to the body in
Wow.
the Spahn Ranch. So they went there in the middle of the night, snuck him out of prison, brought him to the Spahn Ranch, and he brought them right to where he had left him, and they found bones.
Kush and Chemtrails, the world's most dangerous podcast.